All right. Welcome. Today we are going to be talking about numerous ways in which the linking in Primo through the configurations in Alma can be improved or fixed depending on the level of not working. So I found some interesting and very useful presentations from SUNY that they did right after implementation. And so it was like 2019, 2020. And a lot of it was pre-Primo V. So I've added a few things to theirs. But troubleshooting linking in Primo Alma kind of falls into, and it's actually one of these 4 areas because I added CDI. So making sure that your proxy is set up correctly, looking at the linking parameters in the electronic service in Alma, looking at the metadata coming from the vendor to Alma, which may require going into your vendor admin, looking up the open URL and Alma link resolver functioning, and checking on your CDI settings. So some of this I've got a little more detail on than others, but it was kind of a good way to organize some resources and yes, sharing the doc here. There we go. So this is a table of the proxy enabled setting results, which I have always found mysterious because depending on which level you activate or don't activate, disable, or enable your proxy, you can get different results when a student clicks on the resource, the user clicks on the resource in Primo. So here's this table, and I'm gonna just show you the different levels that I'm talking about. I'm gonna use Big Bend because I've gone in on theirs, and we'll just see how well I've done when I was cleaning them up. So for electronic collections, we've got, we'll just go to EBSCO. Okay, so there are 3 places where you can set or edit proxy information at the collection level, the service level, and the portfolio level. The collection level, that is accessed by clicking on Edit Collection, and then going to Additional and Proxy Enabled and Proxy Selected. If you only have one Easy Proxy, or well, everyone's Easy Proxy right now, but if you only have one profile, I strongly suggest doing default as opposed to clicking a specific one, because then if you do update that Easy Proxy profile in integration profile settings, it will automatically update in all of your electronic collections. So that's the first place that you can look. The second place is in the service level, and service level is 3 dots and then edit service. And of course, there's like 6 ways to get to all of these things, but I'm gonna keep it simple. And under the linking tab, you have again whether or not proxy is enabled and which is selected. Hopefully, yes, you should have the proxy enabled at the service level, because that was that's kind of the quote unquote best practice, since collection acts more like a bib record and less in the actual construction of the linking. And as you can see, it's very like half of these different configurations do not have proxy enabled at the collection level. And most of those still redirect to proxy login. And as long as it is enabled at the service level, usually fine. The final place that you may have proxy set up, and I would say this might be more common with like a selective package if you're just doing individual portfolio information, is within individual portfolios. And you can check that here at edit and linking. If proxy is enabled at collection or at service level, as you can see, your user will be redirected to the proxy login. So it's not necessary to go in and make sure that every single portfolio is proxy enabled. If it's enabled at service and collection level, you should be totally fine. So that's kind of the first thing, is to just check those proxy configurations. Maybe something got switched around. And then here's the one where my deep dive taught me something new. So there are, in fact, additional library-specific linking parameters that need to be like set in order for linking to fully function. EBSCOhost has the most complex one, and the best recommended action is to add the OP-ID in addition to the customer ID. I have all of your customer IDs. If you somehow like aren't quite sure what it is, I just got them from George Dragich. Your OP-IDs are not readily available in the admin portal, and you will need to contact EBSCO support and ask for the OP-ID for your library and the platform. So if you have Flipster and regular EBSCO, like the different platforms, there's going to be a different OP-ID for both of those. So we can see in Big Ben's, if we go back here, and this is under the service level, and we go to linking, you can see in the parser parameters, we have anything that is preceded by $2 is a potentially customizable thing. So we have Shibboleth, we have customer ID, we have SSO, we have IP auth, and we have OP-ID. So down here at the bottom, we have those four things. We have none of those entered for Big Bend. However, the linking is still basically working. The best practices would be to add the customer ID, which I should probably double check it, and to look to contact EBSCO and get the OP-ID, and then also to put a value of yes for whichever of these authentication methods is also in use. And you can check that by, I mean, none of us have Shibboleth or Athens. And the issue with South Puget Sound's linking could have something to do with the fact that they have activated SSO authentication. Abby?
Hey, okay. So I just need to go back a little bit because I'm trying to follow along with my Alma. Was going slow. So this customer ID, OPID ID is in the collection or in the service?
Service.
Service. So when we're editing a service is where we'd see opportunities in our
These.
linking tab. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we do use Shibboleth, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's dumb. But what is OPID? But I need to contact EBSCO for the OPID for all of our databases plus ebooks plus.
So it's not database based, it's platform based. So your main journal collections and the EBSCO ebook collections are going to be on the eHost platform. And like, for example, South Puget Sound has Flipster as an EBSCO platform as well. So because they have the eHost platform and the Flipster platform, they have two OPIDs. And so most of their EBSCO services are going to be through EBSCO host journals. And that's where the eHost profile OPID would come in. So it's a six character numerical new alphabet, numbers and letters mixed. And yeah, you just email like whatever it is, support at EBSCO, and say, hey, can I get our OPID for our EBSCO profiles? And then you would put the OPID in here, you put your customer ID in here, and depending on, so like South Puget Sound, because they have the SSO through EBSCO activated, they would put yes here. Most of the rest of us, if you look in your EBSCO admin portal, it will show that there are you can add different authentication methods. Most are probably limited to proxy, but you might also be allowing IP authentication and have IP ranges in there. So then you would want to put yes, which Big Band does, and then you would put in the OPID and save. I'm not going to save because I don't. Yeah. I'll talk to Amanda before we do that. Now, what I wish was possible was that you could create a set of like every single electronic collection whose, that's parser key is this, and then do a bulk collection job change and enter this information. But you can't. These linking parser parameters are dependent on the parser parameters that are specific to the interface and the platform. And so they're just not something that you can change with the bulk job. So you do have to go in to every single electronic collection individually and make those changes. Gale is the other one that can benefit a lot from entering these specific parameters. And the one that I learned, so I knew about location ID, but the one that I learned about was the article level parameter and setting that to yes. So let's take a look at a Gale collection at Big Bend. And so we'll use Gale Health and Wellness. And we're going to go into Edit Service and Linking. And here we see Location ID and Art. And Art is actually the article level linking. So here's one. So we have proxy enabled, yes, but no proxy is selected. So I'm just going to fix that real quick. And down here, we have their location ID and Art is yes. So that one is all set up nicely now because we actually have a proxy selected and we have both of those linking parameters in there. So I'm going to hit save. So yeah, so you could go in to every single one and just make sure that you've got yes in Art, because if you're having trouble with Gale linking, this is a big part of it. We do have a chat from Amy. Having an EBSCO linking issue, your Primo links are going to the test interface rather than production interface. And I think because I was investigating yours and then I was investigating South Puget Sound, and I think they were both kind of pointing to some of these things. So I want to go back and look at the parser parameters on some of those, and it may be the op ID that would be able to fix that, because that will be the platform specific one, and that might fix that weird test interface thing that's going on. But I'm not quite certain yet, but I think it could.
And then I have a quick question. When you type in yes, does it matter if it's uppercase, lowercase, capital Y?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Everyone I've seen is just all lowercase, but as far as I know, the parameters become part of URL construction, so capitals shouldn't matter. Okay, so that's Gale. eBook Central will have customer ID, cust ID instead of customer ID. And you can find your institution code in eBook Central admin to put that there. ProQuest databases, they're not necessary outside of a network zone according to documentation, but they can add additional functionality. And if you're having problems with any, like this resource hasn't been found, like the article is going to the like the collection level or the journal level instead of the article, you might want to add your account ID, which is usually it's that 4-number one. I know a few of our schools have ABC Clio products, and the documentation says that the username and password is necessary for those. And that's one that I can't shed a lot of light on because I've never had to deal with ABC Clio. So Kirsty's had to add in yes for that art field for each library for the 43 different electronic collections. Wouldn't it be nice if, like they could just fix that functionality in Alma? Right. So yeah. So it could take you a little bit of time to, the turnaround is maybe 24 hours to get the op ID, but it could take you a little bit of time to go through and check these one by one. You can always create a set and have export an Excel sheet and just kind of like check off as you run down the list, or go, one interface at a time, because it's not all interfaces. It really is just a few that require these extra settings. Some of the other things, oh yes, link for these again, because we have had quite a few people come in. Some of the other things you might want to look at is if you have databases, type electronic collections activated, you may need to go in to the custom linking for central index databases to figure out if there are additional linking templates needed. The op ID for EBSCO goes in at the service collection under the linking tab. Gale databases, so not Gale aggregator packages. So when I say types, we kind of refer to everything generally as a database, but electronic collections have 3 types: aggregator, database, and selected. So here's a database. Gale Power Search doesn't actually have any portfolios or full text. It is a database. So for Gale databases, you want to make sure that the parameter key for Gale linking within the, let's do this. Configuration menu, discovery other. So config, discovery, other, and it is custom linking for central index databases. So we come down here to the Gale linking, and to configure this template, replace service ID with Primo and your location ID with the location provided by Gale. So let's see what we've got in here. Hold on. So we've got, it's in here already. So I'll open it up. Oh, no, I can't open it. I hate how this, okay, let's see if I can extend it. It'll be obnoxious looking, but, so as you can see, this template is here. And if we go along this whole URL, we have this SID Primo and the username of the location ID code, Big Bend CC. So if you're having Gale linking problems, you might want to take a look here. So same goes with, well, any of those in there, but Gale would probably be the big one. The other big one for us is going to be Films on Demand. So if we go to the Infobase linking, because there is actually 2 Infobase ones, according to so like there's Infobase pub linking. So if you have a journal collection from Infobase, but for Films on Demand, it is Infobase linking, and we're going to go through and we want to change this WID to the library code as provided by Infobase. And Big Bend does not have Films on Demand anymore, so I'm not going to worry about it. But if you do, this would be a good one to improve that linking. So that's the custom linking for central index databases. If you have like most of our electronic collections, the aggregator or selective type, your CDI settings. I have probably created a cheat sheet for CDI settings a million times and then recreated it a million times because you just have to read these weird sentences over and over again. So for CDI search activation status, you've got active and not active. So if you don't want a certain aggregator or selective collection to show up in Primo at all, you would select not active. That's really just like not as common anymore because we're with CDI, we're not having to activate collections for alternative coverage. When it is set to active, the records from that collection will appear when you do the discovery expand or the like search outside my institution. And if you don't have it, the record, it'll say no full text available unless, this is so weird. Like, why would you have a collection active but with no full text available? Like, yeah.
If you're in like a big research library, you can use that information to create an interlibrary loan request. So, so if the big research libraries
activate
they
a bunch
want
of
people
stuff
to know that stuff exists even if they can't get it immediately. In our case, if we can't get it immediately, our
probably not
don't want
getting it. Yeah. Yeah. The big one is we subscribe to only some titles in this collection. So while it's the first paragraph here says like set yes for selective subscriptions where you're only going to like add certain portfolios or activate certain portfolios, and no for non-selective or aggregated subscriptions. I actually recommend selecting yes all the time, because that way the like extra CDI information doesn't get like added to the portfolio list that you have active, because like those portfolios have metadata that can link to something else that might not be really great. And by selecting yes on we subscribe to only some titles in this collection, even if you subscribe to all of them, even if you have every single portfolio active, it will still make sure that your linking metadata stays a bit cleaner. So that setting, we'll go ahead and get out of this, and go back to, we'll go into ProQuest this time. So that setting is going to be at the service level as well. If my brain, nope. It's at the collection level, which I should put in the notes. So CDI. So CDI search activation status, we want that ProQuest collection active. We subscribe to only some titles in this collection. Yes. One of the things is do not show as full text available in CDI, even if active in Alma. I'm guessing also has to do with that like big university trying to make records available for interlibrary loan or document delivery. So yeah, so this is gonna give us good, clean setup. What we also see here are like the full text rights. So if you've got something activated that you do not subscribe to, but it says full text rights are subscription, you probably don't want that actually activated. Search rights, of course, in CDI are free for most databases, or well, I say electronic collections. So this is not as helpful for knowing like, oh, is this free or not? This is the free, is it free or not kind of setting. And this tells you too, like how often it gets updated by the in the community zone. So there's some of the more common, like may have been activated incorrectly before migration to CDI, or perhaps, like the wrong collection got activated, or, like that's the common stuff. Some of the stuff that's less common, and things that I totally learned about, are the EBSCO link resolver API, which is not the same as your EBSCO search profile. So there is a way to create an external search index of, sorry, I was doing some testing for EBSCO, and be able to add that in Primo. It doesn't work super well, so most schools are no longer using that. However, there is also under integration profiles, so configuration, general integration profile, the ability to add a link resolver plugin. So We don't have one here in Big Bend, so I would say add integration profile. I'm going to do type is link resolver plugin. And now we no longer have to have that code. Provider, EBSCO. Next, set it to active. And then the API is going to follow this format here. So I'm going to put this in, and then I'm going to actually look up the, it's just going to take me a second to look it up. I really should have it like saved somewhere a lot more convenient than I do, but it's like, well, I know where it is, so why move it? Okay, so Big Bend's is Big Bend. Most other people's are like S and then a bunch of numbers, but some of you all have been customers for so long, it is like some derivative of your name. So now we hit save, and we're gonna see if this ends up changing anything for Big Bend's EBSCO linking, but it's not gonna hurt anything to set that up. So the code ends up being EBSCO, the name is EBSCO because that is the link resolver plugin that is available. So we've got that here. And then the other thing is the augmentation profile. So how this was set up by Ex Libris changed, I think in like 2020. So you may have originally set it up and put in a Crossref username and password, but that is no longer needed, and it's instead going to pull the default institution email. But you might need to just check it. So I don't think they have augmentation set up. I know some schools do. So we'll get to do this as well today. So we're going to do add integration profile, and we're going to do augmentation, and next. And now we're going to turn on Crossref. We're going to turn on the archive OAI data to obtain additional metadata for articles. I'm going to leave PubMed off because I don't have access to that API key for Big Bend at the moment. So now we save. And now Big Bend has an augmentation integration and the EBSCO link resolver plugin. And both of those things are going to provide additional metadata to assist with linking within Primo. I'm guessing since it is kind of like a deep behind the scenes action that's happening, it'll take a few days for it to fully re-index. I can never remember if re-indexing in Primo, like full re-indexing, is like a weekly thing or a nightly thing. And my hope is actually that by doing these two integration profiles that do improve metadata, that our collection information, the journal sets, that metadata that is going out to LibKey will also get better the next time that it's published. So crossing my fingers on that one. So I'll be kind of excited to see what happens. So this was a lot. And I'm sure if you were trying to follow along, it was very fast, but I hope that this document can be helpful if you're going through. If you start to look at your environment and you see that like none of your collections have this stuff, but you know, you're trying to do 80 hours of work in a 40-hour work week, please let me know. I'm happy to help out. You can, you know, give me the info and I'll start working through your collections as well. So we can get them updated. I think especially, like location ID and having the article level linking on for Gale databases, if you have those active, and then having at least your customer ID in for EBSCO. That's probably the level that like most people go to. I didn't see anywhere that anybody had an op ID when I was looking, but at least having customer ID in there. If you have IP authentication listed in your EBSCO admin interface as I can't remember what the actual like tab and field is called, but if it's like, yes, authenticate via IP and here are IP ranges, putting in that value of yes for that, I think it'll help a lot with kind of just some of the general, why did this go to, journal level when this person clicked it and article level when this person clicked it, like what's going on here. So yeah, go ahead, like shoot me a meeting request, and we can kind of take a look at stuff. This is just like one of those others like weird e-resource cleanup things, because like this new linking method is only a couple years old. So even if you set it up absolutely perfectly when you implemented Alma, it won't be right now. You may not have even had Gale databases before the state library, like had the Gale package. So you wouldn't have really known. We certainly didn't get that level of instruction from Gale. And then, like the Gale Power Search is probably one of the like databases. But the Films on Demand, is, like about half of us probably have Films on Demand, I think. So, I mean, there's a couple things in here that are worth checking on. But as always, if you don't have time, then just let me know and I'm happy to help out. Kirsty says that they do have their OP-IDs in Alma under service group settings. I'm betting that's because EBSCO helped you set it up because you have group level permissions.
No,
For
that because of our weird setup, that's where the field shows up. So when EBSCO sent out the information
okay.
about these are your OP-IDs, I was like, okay, well, this is where we're storing the customer ID. So this must be where we also put the OP-ID, and it's working.
Yeah,
But
and that's the thing
but
is
that's
like,
us and we're weird.
and it might work. I mean, that was kind of um the disclaimer on a lot of this documentation was like, it may work totally fine without any of this additional customization, or it might not. And it's like, how can it be so wishy-washy that some libraries it would work fine without, or some platforms it would work fine without, but it should have it? Like, why is it optional? Either it needs it or it doesn't. But yeah, so it's interesting stuff and I learned something. So I hope there was something useful to you. I'm happy we've got, like more than 15 minutes in the hour. So if anyone would like me to take a look in their environment, or if you have other questions of what's going on, Lily is out today, or I probably would have jumped into South Puget Sound and we would have played around with fixing their linking issues. In addition to adding customer ID, op ID, and the SSO yes parameter, we may actually have to do some weird parser parameter overrides. But I don't know yet, and we're going to work on it next week. So, yeah. Any questions? Anyone want me to like jump in to their stuff and take a look around? Yes, customer ID is what EBSCO calls site ID. And yours should just be Grays. No. Okay. Nope, that's I was